Yep, we're ready. We're recording. We're ready whenever you want.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the December 14th, 2022 Brook Township Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Some quick announcements. In accordance with Resolution 2-2012, Scott Skilson, Vincent Drive is live streaming and recording tonight's meeting for posting on YouTube. The meeting is also going to be available and being recorded electronically on our Zoom platform. Next, we're going to do some end of the year recognitions.
I guess we'll go over here. Yeah, we'll go out front and send everybody out there. Way back when. All right, good evening, everyone. So, what we've done at Brook Township at the end of the year, we know that there's been people who've been helping us throughout the year, so we take this time to recognize those people. So, first, I'd like to start off with we didn't have a park and recreation. We had a lot of people who were wondering what we could do around here, so I found a person who had all the enthusiasm and the ideas to help us get started. And that person is Lee. So Lee, could you come up? Come forward, please. Now I'll read off what we have. The Brook Township Board of Supervisors take pride in recognizing your years of service to the Recreation and Park Board and your contribution to the community. This recognition is given with great appreciation on the 14th day of December 2022. Lee, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hold on.
Thank you. Okay, take a chair. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Next, Chris Bryant. Township Supervisors would like to thank you for your hard work in the office and for keeping everything running smoothly. Taking pride, recognizing your contribution to the community. Thank you. Thank you.
We need somebody to take a picture.
Yeah,
I'll take a
yeah.
picture.
Which button do I push?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, so that's a perfect example of the things that you do that we're here to notice for, you for. Okay? We appreciate everything that you do here for the township and to make the public aware of what's happening, communication, and those things. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. And we have one other person that we'd like to give recognition to, so Representative Hennesey, please come forward. So, several years ago, we were looking at Route 10, and I placed a phone call, and all of a sudden, boom, work was done. This is a tribute of many things that our state representative has done for us over the years. I didn't want to forget him since after 30 years of service, we will be having another state rep, and that would be Dan Weems, but your district was moved anyway, so we were losing you anyway.
Yeah, unfortunate
For
for me.
Yes. So, just to read off, it is with extraordinary pride and appreciation that the Honeybrook Township Board of Supervisors acknowledges your service to our community and the region. Your care and attention to our residents' concerns and needs assured us that our best interests were always served. Tim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, squeeze in. Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me.
And if you can speak, yes, give us Tim an opportunity to speak, yes.
Yes, thank you. It has been a distinct honor to represent Honeybrook Township and all of the people in the 26th district for over 20, just about 30 years. All right. The district changed somewhat, but over 10 years with the redistricting that occurs based on the federal census, we changed the district lines somewhat, so everybody gets to represent an equal number or as equal a number of people in their district as that they can. In this particular case, the redistricting took 48% of my district away. Honeybrook, Borough, Township, and everything south of here. It used to be all the way down to West Asbury. Used to be part of my district. Some of that I've represented for 30 years. Unfortunately, they moved it away and gave me Phoenixville and Spring City, which are very, very heavily Democratic, and I got crushed. I did well in the rest of my district with places that knew me, but in Phoenixville, crushed by the numbers. So it has been, as I said, an honor to represent you all. I'm trying to get used to retirement. I wake up in the morning and think, geez, I should go to the office, and I do. But Debbie's not there, my secretary, for a long time, to say, these are the people that called in overnight, you have to call them, and that kind of thing. It's not having anything to do right now.
We'll send you some calls.
Unusual. What's that?
We'll send you some calls.
Okay, that's fine. I'll still try to help any way I can.
And before we forget, Carol, could you come forward?
There's always pickleball.
There you
So
go.
you know. You know what pickleball is?
Pickleball. Good job, pickleball.
We play it here.
I probably should use that.
Also wanted to point out, all these years, when Tim was here, Carol was also here as well. So all the miles you put on, and helping out as well, and I want to say thank you. We appreciate it very
My
much.
pleasure.
Yes.
My pleasure.
You know, I'll publicly thank my wife as well, because it's a team effort when you do this job and do it right.
Yeah.
And she's been with me every step of the way. So thank you all. Appreciate the recognition, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you, John.
Well done, Tim.
And if anyone would like to leave now, we're going into the business, so feel free if you want to leave at this point. I'm giving you a fair warning. Good night. Thank you.
Lee it is. Come in to see us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Chris, thank you. And also, Warren, thank you.
Laura, I did switch your microphone, the other one was no longer. Yeah, so I need one. Take care. Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the open forum for any comments on any action items on the agenda for tonight. Is there anybody on Zoom?
Here's what else.
Okay, if there's no comments, we'll move forward to the consent agenda.
To point out to the board that we did not receive the November Recreation and Parks minutes, nor have we yet received the Twin Valley Fire Department report. I did reach out and ask where that was. They said that they were waiting on some data from the county, which has been delayed. So I would recommend the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What's the rate?
We'll move on to department reports. The first is Don Johnson, Public Works Department.
Don is not here tonight. He is resting up for what might be happening tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But I know that they had been doing some emergency
Mayor John, that under item B, we had all the 2022 accomplishments listed, of which we hit 17. The one I think is most impressive is that Christie completed her Pennsylvania Municipal Government Associate graduate degree in about 10 months, which is about 60 hours. When I gave her the go-ahead, I thought it was going to be about a 2 to 3 year process. So she's well ahead of the curve, and she's taken on added responsibility based upon the classes that she's taken. That manager report is available in the back. I can highlight that down here. For the board's notice in your iCompass, though, it is under consent agreement or consent agenda number 2, where my this month's report was.
Good, thank you.
Okay, next, Land Preservation Committee.
Well, the farmer's breakfast is back. Will be at 8 a.m. before the breakfast, and then will be the breakfast and program. So it would be a full day.
They'll do the reorg then.
Yes, and then they will meet April, August, and October, 3rd Tuesday at 7 p.m.
So you're referring to the Ag Security District, is
Yes,
it? Yeah. So it's up for renewal every 7
every
years.
7 years, yeah, it's 7 years already, if you can believe it.
So, yeah, for the audience, what the Ag Security District does, it doesn't give any specific land protection or anything. It's just exemptions from like noise ordinance and things like that, so that farmers apply for it. It's not mandatory, and every 7 years they have to either acknowledge
Express interest in staying
if they want to stay
yeah.
in that district. Yeah.
It's also kind of the first requisite that you need to do in order to be eligible for land preservation, is to be part of the ASA. So, yeah, 7 years already.
Good.
Next is Planning Commission.
Okay, good evening. I don't see anyone here from planning. I really don't have anything to report. I'm sorry, Gary's in the front row. And he even talked right before the meeting started. Sorry, Gary. We didn't have a meeting this past month. It would have been last Thursday. Our next meeting is the end of January, so I'll have another update from the board next month's board meeting. And again, I apologize, Mr. McKeown.
And we also have the joint workshop planning commission board of supervisors meeting January
The 11th.
11th.
Yes,
Correct.
that is correct.
It is a planning commission meeting, but the board has acknowledged that we will run it for the planning commission and that land preservation and park and rec has been invited as well.
I think Gary's got an identity problem there. Someone at Tel Hai asked me if I had been on the board of directors at Tel Hai. I said, no, that's McEwen.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Recreation and Parks Board.
As mentioned earlier, there are no minutes, so I have no update, but the next meeting will be on January 19, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Got a question on, a few years ago they changed it to recreation and parks. It really hasn't caught up. So do we want to go back to park and recs? I mean, just for consistency. Not asking you specifically, but I just throw them out there.
I believe everyone refers to it as park and rec.
Yes.
It might be cleaner if we move back towards.
Yeah, consistency, yeah. I get corrected sometimes by park and rec, people say, no, we're renting park. Yeah.
I guess it depends if you're a fan of the show or not.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to new business. First item is the list of bills for payment as prepared by the treasurer.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
second item is an update to the 2020 Tel Hai master plan and to notify the zoning hearing board in writing of the update.
Okay, if I may, I will describe that situation with words. Should I put the mic on?
If you want to, yeah, grab the elbow. All right. Thank you. So,
So what Tel Hai has said to the staff is that the market has changed for the product that they make available to residents, that cottages are very important to their ability to serve the community. They want to build more cottages. They do have approval for some additional apartment units. They haven't up to this point constructed. So they want to continue to have the right to construct those apartments, but the thing that they really feel they need now are more cottages. They also described that the nursing home population has declined over the years, that part of the service that they provide has diminished in size. So there have been changes in what mix of uses they wish to provide to the community. So the bottom line is their proposal is to add, and I believe I asked our engineer to confirm this, about 46, is that right, additional cottage units that they would add to the property. So because this development has been occurring pursuant to a settlement agreement, that a legal settlement agreement of the prior dispute, of the original dispute, this is something which can only move forward by an amendment to that existing settlement agreement. And as a result, the staff was able to come to the Board of Supervisors, and we had a couple of executive session discussions of this proposed amendment to the settlement agreement. And in those discussions, the Board of Supervisors told the staff approaches the property from the north, and it was the township's desire that there be an alternate access from the north. The property that access travels through, though, is Preserve Farm, so it wasn't possible for Tel Hai to acquire a road or a permanent easement, but they were able to come to an agreement with the neighbors on the north side of the property for a license agreement that would confirm that there is a right for emergency access along that existing driveway that Tel Hai has historically or the EMS pieces, which would be exhibits to an amendment to the settlement agreement. There's also a license agreement for the emergency access, which will be an exhibit to the proposed amendment to the settlement agreement. Another concern that the board had, that the staff was asked to Tel Hai about, was a preservation of remaining open space on the property. And there's really a couple of aspects to this. One is to preserve some undeveloped areas as part of the additional cottage units, that some of which have some environmental sense. In addition, it's a confirmation that Tel Hai agrees that they have reached the maximum limit of development of that site. With the proposed additional construction that is part of the proposed project, Tel Hai is agreeing that this is it. There will not be additional construction. So in order to confirm that understanding of what expectations are and what Tel Hai is willing to commit to, there is a proposed deed restriction that would be signed by Tel Hai and delivered to the township that would permanently preserve from further development except for a walking trail, or I think specifically it's for a walking trail through the preserved area. There are some financial reasons why that can't immediately be recorded, but the signed document would be delivered to the township for the township to keep in safekeeping. And when the financial arrangements that restrict their ability to allow that deed restriction to be recorded have been satisfied, at some point in the future, that deed restriction would be recorded in the Recorder of Deeds office for Chester County. In the meantime, Tel Hai is willing to agree that the deed restrictions are legally binding on Tel Hai, even though they're not recorded yet in the Recorder of Deeds office, that they are legally binding. So again, there is a commitment by Tel Hai that if the township cooperates with the proposed development, that there wouldn't be additional development in the future beyond what is proposed. So, as additional exhibits to the amendment to the settlement agreement, not only is the deed restriction to be attached, but also a plan which depicts the area of the property which is intended to be permanently preserved. That's an open space plan exhibit to the agreement. There's also an exhibit that shows the number of proposed units and where they would be located on the property, so that we can all understand what it is that Tel Hai wishes to do, where they wish to do it, and how it would be compatible with the preservation of the remaining open space on the site. As part of the process for moving forward with this, they still need zoning relief from the Township Zoning Hearing Board. And again, there is a precedent for this with the way in which the prior development approvals for Tel Hai have occurred here in the township. And so the precedent that was followed in the past and would be followed again is for a settlement agreement to be entered into by the township and the Tel Hai that is conditioned upon the relief that is necessary under the zoning ordinance being granted through the independent review by the township's zoning hearing board. But if the Board of Supervisors approves this settlement agreement, the board is indicating through that agreement that it supports the relief that Tel Hai would be seeking from the zoning hearing board. But it is still the responsibility of Tel Hai to go to the zoning hearing board, present their project, present the settlement agreement, and seek the approval of the zoning hearing board for the variances that would be necessary to have the project comply with the zoning ordinance as adjusted by those variances. And some of those variance topics would be an increase in the density of development on the property by a fraction of a unit per acre. And there are some other adjustments to the ordinance that through the variance request would need to be approved by the zoning hearing board. In addition to the zoning piece of this, there's also a land development plan approval process that would also need to be complied with by Tel Hai, which means that if the board approves the amendment to the settlement agreement, Tel Hai goes to the zoning hearing board and gets the zoning relief that they need from the zoning hearing board. Then Tel Hai must still come to the planning commission with a plan application to gain recommendation of the planning commission and approval of the board of supervisors for that land development plan. The settlement agreement anticipates that there would be a handful of waivers required from the planning commission, the board of supervisors of regulations in the subdivision and land development ordinance of the township. And in anticipation of those, the settlement agreement indicates that the board of supervisors would be agreeable to granting the waivers that are necessary for the project as shown on the development plan that is an exhibit to the settlement agreement. So that's a lot of information, but I wanted to make you aware of how we got to where we are today with a proposal from Tel Hai. And I have reviewed multiple versions and revisions of the settlement agreement to ensure that it meets what we have asked the Tel Hai to include and agree to in that document. It's been reviewed with Mike's office, the township engineer, so that we feel we have an understanding of what those zoning requirements would be, what the saldo waiver requirements would be, and those things that the board has, directed the staff to seek have been included in the agreement in the fashion that I've already described. So with that explanation, the action that you could consider tonight would be a motion to approve the settlement agreement, which is an amendment to the existing settlement agreement with Tel Hai. And if you make that motion tonight, then Tel Hai would be ready to go to the township zoning hearing board with an application for the variances that would be necessary to enable their proposed project to move forward. Mike, Warren, is there anything that you think I've omitted?
No, I believe Tel Hai has met all of the requirements and concerns addressed.
So if I heard, we're agreeing to an amendment to the settlement agreement in order for them to go forward, is that?
Yeah, and going forward in this context means not that they get a building permit, but instead, they gotta go to the zoning hearing board. If they get through the zoning hearing board, they have to go to the planning commission, and then the plan has to come to the board for formal approval. So this is a step, but it's a very important step, because it's basically a roadmap saying that if you are able to navigate these hurdles, the Board of Supervisors is on board with what you're proposing. So, yes.
The amendment includes the things that you're specifying, emergency access and EMS and all of the items.
Yeah,
that
the
you're showing.
EMS, the deed restriction, the emergency access to the north, all of those things, we have required them to document and attach to the agreement, so there's no doubt as to what the obligations are by Tel Hai.
Thank you, Chris.
And that does include a traffic study and doing any.
Yeah, that's,
mentioned
yeah,
that.
I omitted that, but you're right,
Yeah.
there were some things that we talked about on the southern side, where they have their existing access, that the board had asked the staff to talk to Tel Hai about, which would be carried out through that land development planning process. And specifically what we asked for were traffic studies to be done as to those existing driveway accesses to the township road or to the public road, and that if those traffic studies indicate that additional improvements are necessary at those intersection points, Tel Hai is obligated to make those improvements.
Yeah, it's important to understand that we will be doing a full review of that under land development, so aspects of design elements like stormwater management, traffic study, we don't have those reports yet. That doesn't mean they're not required to be submitted, but they would be coming after the zoning relief is granted at the land development stage. So I'll provide a review letter to the planning commission like we would for any other land development that gets submitted.
In prevent of what we expressed the concern, what is that, tree line road or
Tree line drive.
tree line drive? So when you come out, you're coming out on a curve, you're looking to the right and stuff, and the stress on that road already with the current volume of traffic. So that's one reason why we pushed on that point. Just have to, or, is that done with that, Chris?
Right, I mean, if there are no other questions from the board, again, my recommendation would be to consider a motion to approve the amendment to the settlement agreement with Tel Hai, because I think we have obtained the commitments that you have been seeking from Tel Hai.
It's my turn. Okay, I make a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And Dan, Mr. Shank said he'll meet you tomorrow morning for breakfast to go over all this in detail.
All right. The next item is to approve the budget for fiscal year 2023.
So the budget had been presented a few times. It was out for public comment and review. There was no public review of it, to my understanding, and we have received no public comment. As noted prior, by Paul Jansen and myself, the board can accept it and approve it as presented or make any material changes that the board would like to this evening. The board makes a motion to approve. Obviously, like we have done this year, you can make changes to the budget after April 1st of 2023.
Also, I think if Chris and I discussed a while back, we can make an adjustment that's less but not more as a point of clarification. I think there was something that, okay.
Well, there are certain rules in the second class township code. If you have unappropriated funds, you can appropriate those at any time.
Yeah.
But if you want to shift funding from a certain category to a different category of appropriated funds, then you have to wait the period of time that Warren has described.
Yeah. But we
Okay, you're talking about making,
so we budgeted a specific
Right now.
amount, and then we decided that maybe that was not, that was more than what we needed. We could make that adjustment without, even though we approved, got it.
You would, if you come under budget, typically whatever monies, like we allocated $120,000 to Tel Hai Brook EMS this year as a donation. They've elected to ask for that next year. We don't have to amend the budget. That budget line item just shows that it's under budget, and then it just falls back into the general funds of that fund balance. So when we reappropriated it for the 2023 balance, it will come out of what was left over of our fund balance. Now, it might show, as we noted earlier with Paul, that it shows a little bit more of a deficit this year because we have to base our expenses off of revenue, even though we have a $7 million fund balance in our general fund, because we have allocated ARPA funds this year that weren't utilized in this year's budget, but will be utilized in 2023.
So it's appropriate within that line item, being carried over, but it can't be pulled into another line item once it's been appropriated.
Correct, and the budget, again, is just a guide, right? If we have $100,000, there's nothing to say that we only use 90, or if we go over 110. Obviously, the budget is a guide to show that we are utilizing our funds appropriately and that we're not overspending from the monies that the township has in its various bank accounts.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is Resolution 2022-18, establishing township real estate tax rate for 2023.
So the tax rate is going to stay the same as last year, which is 1.35 mils. Just for the public's knowledge, 1 mil is equal to $1 per $1,000 of a property's assessed value, and the county assesses all values for homes in the township. So of the 1.35 mils, 0.7 of the mil goes to general purpose, essentially government expenditures. 0.5 mils goes to fire protection, so that money is distributed between the Twin Valley Fire Department and our main fire protection service, Brook, and 0.15 mils goes to Brook Elderson EMS.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Resolution 2022-19, establishing the fee schedule for 2023.
So you have a fee schedule which essentially shows the cost that we issue out for permits, zoning hearing board applications, costs of using our engineering services. Some of those fees has increased now, those fees typically have increased with permitting fees. And then the other large change is that we, in the past, have had a $25 application fee. We have upped that to a $50 processing and retention fee. And that's because we're required by law to keep any permits on file in perpetuity. So the Commonwealth has permitted us to charge a little bit more for the sheer fact that if that permit was requested 10 times over 30 years, staff would be pulling those permits, and that we can charge a reasonable cost to help cover the cost of those employees utilizing the services to provide that. It's still in line and relatively affordable.
And then you covered the increased charge for work performed without a permit. That's what it sounded like there.
Correct. So if someone conducts any construction without a permit, the permit fees are double for the sheer fact that we want to ensure that the permits come in first so we can make sure that they meet zoning in our codes. That way we can ensure that those permits are issued so something is safely provided, and that oftentimes when we have to go out after the fact, there is no dissuasion from essentially trying to do work, and if you get caught, it doesn't cost you any more than you did it right. This way now, hopefully there is a meaningful meaningful reason to actually come in and do the proper channels. It's gonna cut your fee in half essentially, if you just use everything.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is a partial security release for Chestnut Ridge Stage 1, tax parcel number 22-8-52.3, Chestnut and Greason Roads, in the amount of $62,175.
And just for the supervisors, this is basically for the conversion of the large basin in Phase 1 along Greason Road, placement of amended soils, and also sidewalk installation in the development. You will see that there is a withholding recommended there, which we're still recommending to withhold that amount. There's a level spreader that's in need of repair, and as of today, we were not notified of that repair happening. So we're going to be following up with them following tonight's meeting and then make sure that that's addressed down the road. But we'll at least be withholding those funds until that correction's been made.
I'll make the motion to release this $2,175.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is a partial release for Chestnut Ridge Stages 2 and 3, tax parcel numbers 22-8-52.5 and 22-8-52.4 respectively, Chestnut and Greason Roads, in the amount of $73,387.91.
And this work is in the Phase 2 portion, Phase 2 and 3 portion of the site for grading and stabilization. They're also requesting a portion of the 10% contingency be released, which is allowed under the MPC. So that's what that amount entails.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to other new business. Any new business?
Well, one of the things we're talking about, potentially having some students come in, on board with the junior council, the boroughs do, and we'd be interested in doing that in 2023.
What would they,
They said at the meeting, join us, some may get involved, or some are just, there to listen in and get a feel for what we do in these meetings. At the end of we could provide like a junior supervisor certificate appreciation, something like that, to acknowledge it. But I found that some of the boroughs, like Huntingburg Borough, Ackland, have been doing it, and they said that it's good results.
I'm assuming it would be a high school student or,
Or even, 8th grade or something, who might be interested in government.
how do you get the word out that?
To alert the schools to say that so career counselors might be interested in knowing that.
And they would come to every?
Well,
I guess it depends.
Depends on if we want one per meeting, or maybe we just have one person say, I'll show up for the rest of the year. It depends on who, the interest. I'm throwing it out there, because I
can talk to Mrs. Morgan from Valley. She,
Yeah.
we have an internship set up with her at our shop,
Good.
and she's the one that sends out students to
Yeah.
different organizations and businesses.
Yeah.
So,
So if it's something we want to pursue, I guess we can take on in January on that.
okay.
Sound good?
Good.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
And then for other new business, for education topics for the year, I sent a list of topics, and I said, if we want to follow those guidelines, or if there's any topics that you feel would be helpful, it's not only to benefit the board, but also some of the residents of the community. So at the end of our workshop, we just say, put aside 10, 15 minutes, put out a topic like, say, zoning, how it applies in Huntingburg, specific to Huntingburg Township. And so there's good videos out there I've seen on zoning that are specific to that particular municipality. So that's something that the board would like to see happen in 2023.
I thought there were some really good items on the list that you had. My only question was, like, who is going to be responsible for, you know, getting the videos, or if it's not a video, putting together the content or whatever to hold after the
So we can check on whether we can record on the Zoom session, or if we do have, you know, the ability to record, so we could even use it on the phone, and, you know, it's that easy to record. As far as material preparation, we can put that out ahead of time, look at what we have, an outline. One good thing that I felt very helpful was the township news from PSATs. I mean, they cover a lot of material in there, but it's a matter of sitting down reading 8 to 10 pages or more of information, and it's not always pertinent to what we need to know about. For instance, I just got my latest copy, just, you know, just talking about the topic is zoning. So that, and then a few years ago they had a very good one on animal control, which the board used for time in reference.
So, who will do the presenting to whoever wants to
I can
say,
initiate
or-
that, and
Okay.
then if, say, you have a topic that you say I feel comfortable with, I would like to present that and discuss it with the, at the end of the workshop meeting as they go forward. Or even a resident that feels that they have an area of expertise on that particular topic, they would like to put together an outline and present it to us, that would be great, that would work.
So you wouldn't necessarily have a set, like, you might list the areas that you feel are good topics, but you would leave it open to people
Yeah.
if they would want,
Yeah, we have flexibility.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, something could happen in the township in 2023 that's really hot, and we'll say, maybe this is something we need to jump on.
Okay.
So part of our workshop meetings, you know, 10, 15-minute education series.
At the end of the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Anything else?
I had one more thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I went to the Veterans Day ceremony. I said this already at the workshop meeting, but there was really no one here. At any rate, it was a nice ceremony at Tel Hai. John did a great job,
Thank
and
you.
so appreciate that.
Thank you. And when you look up above the counter, you'll see all the names, so that list is growing. That in addition to the veterans ceremony, we have an honor roll, and Christy and I talked about a few years ago, you know, some of the names, like the Civil War names, and we had quite a few residents that participated in that conflict. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the open forum. Time for any comments on any other matter in the town.
Dan Lilly, 4,000 Tree Line, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Dan Lilly, 4,000 Tree Line Drive. I'd like to thank the supervisors, the solicitor, the manager, and the engineer for the due diligence you've done with the Tel Hai. What I've heard tonight is encouraging, and it sounds like a very good proposal. I assume with the resolution, whatever it is you passed, there were maps and other plot documents with that.
Yes.
Now that you've approved those messages, are they available to the public and can see them?
Yeah, I don't see why not. What I'd like to see is Tel Hai's signature on the same. They have agreed that this is their proposal, but we don't have something signed by both sides. So I would like to see a document with both signatures from Tel Hai and from the township. Well, once those signatures have been acquired, I feel this would be a public record. Now, my recommendation in a situation like this is that we always document this with a right to know request, and that, you know, you submit it to the township will process it, and you'll get what you have requested. But that's just a process to get documents, is to submit a right to know request form.
And I would say, I would add to that, as the right to know officer, that you could view them before they're recorded, but not get a copy of it till after it's recorded. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's.
But Dan, I believe Dave Shank, like I said, honestly, he wants to talk to you tomorrow. I believe he's going to show you the documents that you're looking at seeing.
Well, yeah, and I can appreciate that, but I guess, as a citizen, I just want to know what I'm allowed to do before.
So you can view any document after it goes to a right to know. I believe there's copyright issues if there are.
Yeah, as far as reproduction.
I'm not asking to reproduce.
If you want to look at documents, you fill out the right to know. We have them on site. You're welcome to look at them once.
But I have to wait until they're signed, or I can look at them tomorrow, for example.
Well, I've already said my preference is to have signed documents before they're released for anyone to view. So,
Well, I can take it offline if you want to talk about it after the meeting, about, when I can actually do this.
well, I'm anticipating that this will be very shortly. So it's going to be soon, but I can't tell you if it's going to be tomorrow.
Okay, well, fair enough. All right, thank you.
Valerie Schultz, 165 Caitlin Court. A couple of things. You were talking about the road near Tel Hai being strained and concerned about cars pulling out. So today it's kind of timely because you may or may not know a really bad accident that took place on Chestnut Tree Road. It was an overturned car that took out a utility pole, and it was an entrapment as well. It actually occurred just up the road from where the entrance and exit is for Chestnut Ridge for Phase 2. And my big concern is when you're coming up the hill, that entrance and exit is right at a blind spot as you're coming up the hill. Have you guys thought about, at least, at the very least, not allowing left turns out of that entrance and exit? Because I will tell you, Chestnut Tree Road, it's not unusual to see cars going 60, sometimes 70 miles an hour. And that's just going to be like a major death trap right there. So if you guys can, go up that hill on Chestnut Tree Road and check out where that entrance and exit comes out, it's a really bad blind spot. So have you guys considered that? Is that?
Just to address your comment, ma'am, we have no jurisdiction over that. That was approved by PennDOT. So any issues related to that are PennDOT jurisdiction, site distance, the improvements, the inspection thereof. This board really has little to no input on that. I mean, obviously, they've obtained all permits, and the plan has been approved. So if you have concerns, I would say you could direct them to PennDOT. But obviously, they've been out and they have inspected that.
It's a really bad spot. So, the other question I have for you guys is a couple months ago, you mentioned about a township newsletter that was going to go out, I thought in November. Did that actually go out? Because I never got a copy.
I was being optimistic
Oh.
in saying November. It's going to the printer this week.
Ah, awesome. And I'm just curious, I know you guys talked about some accomplishments, I didn't really see a list of what they were, but can you guys, each maybe give a list of accomplishments that you guys feel that each one of you have made to the township this year?
Let's start.
I personally would like to say that I don't know that we necessarily accomplish anything individually. I think that we accomplish things as a board. And what notable things do you think that you're most proud of that the board has accomplished this year?
Well, I would say one of the things that, looking at a 5-year projection, because that's something that Warren and I spoke about when he first started here, and that gives us that indication, if we're on track to properly fund, future needs. This municipality is going to see some growth, and we're going to have to be prepared for it. So we have been going from year to year for the budgets like most municipalities, although I did see some municipalities like East Brandywine, if you go to their website, if you look at their budget, what they just advertised, they do have a 5-year push out as well. So that was from a financial situation. I think that the board has got a better feel for going forward. As far as taking an opportunity to step back and to look at some of the projects that we were working on. Last few years, there was a few things with parks and recreation. We had some good ideas, but it really came down to funding it, making sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. And I think that's something that by taking a pause and taking a look at, considering I still Trail, taking a look at Humboldt Park, and especially with the stress that's going to be seen on the eastern side of the township, we will need some recreation facilities out there. So that's something that I think we're being proactive this year, more so than we have in the past. As far as supporting some of the organizations, we supported the Honeybrook Township, the Honeybrook Community Library, but they went a step further and got a grant that meets all their needs. So that, but I think that true to what Warren stepped up and the board was supporting, that we gave them that initial approval to go forward and with their expansion plans, because when we have a large meeting, there's very few places other than the gym for the school for us to meet at. We've done once or twice. Introducing a town hall meeting, giving some residents the opportunity, just to come forward to speak, and recognizing that, what we saw this spring, a lot of people in the community have concerns going forward because, oftentimes you don't know all the facts of what's going on. I recall when I first moved here, I wasn't sure with my new development. We were getting responses, and then we find out that they weren't always accurate. So that meant, as you and other residents did, you just came in and started talking and getting those answers. So I think that's a joint, working with the board and making the board aware that, not just be concerned, but that there are some problems that we really have to step up on. So, and then with the communications that we've seen, the website has really dropped off considerably from the improvements that we made a few years ago. And that's been pushed up as something that's vital to the community, because any time that I want to get updates, it should be the first place for me to go or anyone in the community. And having a good point of reference to take me to other things, not just within Honeybrook Township, but knowing that there's what we did a few years ago, a task force for 322, know that, hey, you do have some elected representatives that are actually stepping up and taking some initiative. And also the fact that, the township has supported the food pantry, because there's a lot of families that are in need right now. And, what we've done is maybe a small step in that direction, because we know that the burden is on the community. And if you have seen, as I have, on that food distribution line, there's a lot of people pouring up twice a month. So I think that those are some of the things. And then, the staffing that we have has stepped up. Some of them have stepped up on their own individually, as well as under a new direction. So I think that's been very positive. And the fact that we put electric charging stations out there is an indication that we are considering things are changing. Things are changing here. It's quite a contrast when you pull into the parking lot. You see a hitching post on one end and EV charging stations on the other. So I think that's something we can also be proud of. So that's my 2 cents.
I think you pretty much hit everything that I could think of. Yeah, the Zoom meetings and.
The technology upgrade, yeah.
Right, we have
Because
to build
that was
technology.
for years in developing, and it has made an impact, so, yeah.
Yeah, and we have all of our meeting notes right here now.
Those are all good things to, let the public know. I
Yeah.
mean, because you guys know things that you're working on, but it's always good, I think, at the end of the year, just to put that out there and tell people,
Yeah.
what you've accomplished this year. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, question.
It's all in the manager's report in the packet there.
Okay.
Any comments?
Just shout out to the staff.
I'm sorry, what did you say, hon?
I said all that list is in the manager's report that's in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we should say thank you to Scott again. I think.
Thank you to Scott for videoing all of our meetings, putting them up on his YouTube channel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's doing that on his own. He's volunteering to do that.
And give it a like on YouTube. And also, we did discuss for the streaming, so is that something that is still available? The streaming for, that's an option that you offered us, yes. So people could come into this session from the outside? Yep. I know you can't talk, you'd be interfering on your filming, okay.
We skipped one item here, continuation discussion on the Brandywine Hospital closure. I'm assuming there's nothing new.
Yeah, there's no.
No. Okay. Then you go to.
Okay, there's nothing, anything further?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah. Second,
All in favor?
Aye. the next meeting's coming up? Yeah.
January
What
3rd.
meetings are coming up?
January 3rd
Yes.
is the next supervisors meeting, which will be the only board of, technically, the only board of supervisors meeting in January.
That's not a workshop, that's a meeting.
No, that's our reorganization and our regular meeting.
It's usually first Monday, but it's Tuesday this year. Maybe a few others in there.
Planning Commission is January, well, that's the joint meeting is January 11th between Board of Supervisors, Park and Rec, and Planning Commission. January 17th is Land Preservation at 8 a.m., followed by the Farmers Breakfast at 9. Parks and Rec is on January 19th. Planning Commission is January 26th. February 1st, we're back to our workshop meeting, and then our February meeting on the 8th.
Yeah, and then the third Wednesday, I already approved it, I can't think of
The
the
third
town
Wed-
hall meeting.
The
Yeah.
third Wednesday of the second month of each
every
quarter.
quarter. There you go. So and Christie is going to be publishing our meeting schedule online and advertising the town halls will be doing it on there. Okay.
And just shout out for Warren, he's completed his first year on the job, so.
Yes, thank you, Warren.
Well
And thank you, Gary, for the planning commission for this year. You've done another good job this year. Thank you.
All right.
Everyone have a happy holiday season.
Thank you.
Yes, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you for joining. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that was